What if I told you the most boring supplement in the gym, the white powder bodybuilders have been scooping into shakers for 30 years, might also be one of the best studied compounds on Earth for your brain? Not in a smart drug, biohacker, Silicon Valley microdosing kind of way, in a quiet, peer-reviewed MRI scan kind of way. Studies show sustained creatine supplementation can raise your brain's energy currency by roughly 9 to 15%. And here's the catch almost everyone misses. Your muscles soak it up in a week. Your brain takes about 12. Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're talking about creatine, but not the version you've heard 100 times. We're not here for bigger biceps, we're here for the brain. Because over the last few years, the research on creatine and cognition has quietly exploded. We've got meta-analyses, MRI spectroscopy studies, sleep deprivation trials, even early work on depression. And what the data shows is genuinely interesting, though fair warning, it's not magic, it's not limitless. It's something more like a small, real, measurable boost to the brain's energy system, especially when that system is under stress. Let's get into what the science actually says, what dose matters, and why the timeline is so much longer than people realize. Here's the part most people don't know. Creatine isn't really a muscle compound, it's a cellular energy compound. Inside every cell, it gets stored as phosphocreatine, and phosphocreatine acts like a backup battery for ATP, the molecule your cells burn for fuel. Now your brain is a metabolic monster. It's about 2% of your body weight, and it burns roughly 20% of your daily energy. Thinking is expensive. And whenever the brain hits a demand spike, heavy concentration, stress, sleep loss, recovering from illness, phosphocreatine is what gets you through the gap before ATP can be regenerated. So when researchers started measuring brain creatine levels using magnetic resonance spectroscopy, they found something fascinating. You can actually raise those levels with supplementation. Nejad and colleagues back in 1999 gave participants 20 grams a day for 4 weeks and measured an 8.7% rise in brain total creatine. Other studies have shown increases around 9 to 11% on average, with certain brain regions climbing closer to 15. That's the number you sometimes see headlined, and it's real, but it's region-specific, not a universal whole brain figure. The honest takeaway, brain creatine goes up, modestly but reliably, when you supplement consistently. Now here's where almost everyone gets it wrong. Muscle saturates fast, about 5 to 7 days with a loading protocol. People try creatine for cognition, feel nothing in 2 weeks, and quit. But the brain plays by different rules. The blood-brain barrier tightly regulates how much creatine gets in, so brain saturation is slow, somewhere between 4 and 12 weeks of consistent dosing. That's not marketing fluff, that's biology. And it means if you're going to test creatine for cognition, you have to commit to the full window. The other piece, the dose for the brain, is higher than the dose for muscle. The 3 to 5 grams a day that works for lifting, probably borderline for cognitive effects. The studies that show clear brain benefits tend to use 10 grams a day, sometimes up to 20. So when you put those two facts together, slower uptake, higher dose, you get the protocol you'll see in the research. Roughly 5 to 10 grams a day, every day, for 8 to 12 weeks minimum, before you judge whether it's working. Let's be calibrated here, because this is where the internet tends to oversell. A 2024 meta-analysis in Frontiers in Nutrition pooled 16 randomized controlled trials and about 500 participants. The result, a significant cognitive benefit in adults aged 18 to 60, with the strongest signal in memory tasks. A 2023 Oxford Nutrition Reviews meta-analysis found similar. Creatine reliably improved memory in healthy people. But the effect sizes are small. The Ray replication study suggests somewhere around 1 to 2.5 IQ points equivalent, real, reproducible, but not a smart drug. Think of it less like caffeine and more like better sleep, a quiet upgrade to the substrate your brain is running on. Two groups, though, seem to benefit more. First, vegetarians and vegans. Because dietary creatine comes almost entirely from meat and fish, plant-based eaters start with lower baseline levels, and the landmark Ray 2003 study found they showed larger gains on working memory and reasoning tests. Second, anyone whose brain is under genuine bioenergetic stress. This is the study that really changed the conversation. In 2024, Gordji-Nejad and colleagues published a paper in Scientific Reports where they gave participants a single high dose of creatine, about 0.35 grams per kilogram of body weight, during 21 hours of sleep deprivation. Then they scanned their brains and tested their cognition. What they found is striking. That single dose raised the brain's phosphocreatine to an organic phosphate ratio. Cognitive performance, which normally tanks under sleep loss, was partially rescued. The benefit peaked around 4 hours after dozing and lasted up to about 9 hours. Now this is an experimental finding, one trial, a high single dose. It's not a daily protocol. But it reframes creatine in a really interesting way, not just a slow chronic supplement, but a potential acute rescue agent when the brain's energy system is genuinely depleted. It also helps explain why the depression research is heating up. Depression involves measurable bioenergetic deficits in the brain, and creatine is being studied as an add-on to SSRIs in trials at the NIH and elsewhere. Early days, but the mechanism makes sense. Quick myth round, because creatine has accumulated a lot of folklore. 1. It damages your kidneys. There's no evidence of that in healthy people across multi-year trials, including studies running out to 5 years. What creatine does is raise serum creatinine on a blood test, but that's metabolic turnover, not kidney injury. Just tell your doctor you supplement so they don't misread the lab. 2. It causes hair loss, cramps, or dehydration. Controlled trials don't support any of those. 3. You have to load. Loading speeds muscle saturation, but for the brain, what matters is sustained daily dosing, not the front-loading week. 4. Fancy forms are better. They aren't. Creatine monohydrate is the form with virtually all the evidence. HCl ethyl ester. Buffered versions cost more and don't have the cognitive data behind them. Look for a third-party purity certification like Creatine and you're set. So if you want to try this, here's what the evidence supports. Dose: 5 to 10 grams a day of plain creatine monohydrate. Lean toward the higher end if cognition is your main goal. Timing doesn't matter with food, without food, morning, night, doesn't matter for the brain, just be consistent. Duration: minimum 8 to 12 weeks before you make a judgment call. If you bail at week 3, you haven't actually tested it. If higher doses give you any GI discomfort, split it into 2 or 3 smaller servings across the day and drink water. Who's most likely to notice something? Vegetarians and vegans, shift workers and the chronically sleep-deprived, older adults concerned about memory, people under sustained stress, and people recovering from illness. A few sensible cautions. If you have pre-existing kidney disease, talk to your doctor first, not because creatine is proven harmful, but because the data in that group is thin. Same goes for pregnancy and breastfeeding, we just don't have enough evidence. And if you're on medications that are hard on the kidneys, run it past your physician. So here's the honest summary. Creatine for cognition is not a miracle. It's not going to make you smarter in the dramatic, movie trailer sense. But it is one of the most studied, safest, cheapest supplements in existence, and the evidence for a small, real improvement in memory and a meaningful rescue effect under sleep deprivation is genuinely strong. The catch is patience. Your brain isn't your biceps. It takes weeks of consistent dosing at the right level before you can fairly judge what it's doing for you. 5 to 10 grams a day, monohydrate, 12 weeks, then decide. If this was helpful, hit the like button, subscribe for more evidence-based deep dives, and let me know in the comments, are you trying creatine for the brain, the body, or both? I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves.